There we go. Okay, welcome to Labor and Health. You'll see us fluttering in and out. I think everybody on the committee almost has got bills somewhere this morning, so it's an unfortunate part of the scheduling, but it happens, especially this time during the session. So this morning we got two bills in front of us, and the first bill we're going to hear is called Healthcare and Clergy. Representative Angelos, I'll bet you're here to talk to us. Let's do a quick roll call since there's just a few of us here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Barlow,
Excused?
Senator Bouchard,
Here.
Senator Dockstader,
Excused?
Senator Hutchings, Chairman Baldwin.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good, three present, we have a quorum. Okay, and I always have a rule of thumb when I start. I'm sorry, Representative, but this is an important rule. Anybody in the audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn it on. Because if it goes off, we like donuts, we prefer maple glazed and chocolate glazed. And Senator Dockstader likes maple bars, so. Okay, with that in mind, let's go back to, we're gonna hear that first bill, Healthcare Facilities and Clergy. Welcome, Representative, go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. I am Representative Abby Angelos from House District 3, and today I'm presenting to you House Bill 127, which, as you said, is clergy and healthcare. This would allow a patient or a resident of the medical facility to request an in-person visitation from their clergy member or allow their legally authorized representative to request an in-person visitation if the patient or resident is incapacitated during a health emergency. So during the pandemic, we saw medical facilities closed to in-person visitation. This included family members and clergy members as well. In working with the Hospital Association, they recognized that there were mistakes made, and we have learned a lot of lessons. So we would like to be able to identify our clergy members as essential during another health emergency. And currently, we are still in a health emergency, as our state hospital 2 weeks ago had closed in-person visitation because of one case of COVID that was on the campus. So this is currently still going on, even though we think we've moved on. So we all know someone that sat alone or died alone in a medical facility in our state without the comfort and final prayers or rites read. And our faith leaders are the ones that comfort, encourage, often improving the outcome of a situation. All have been proven to aid in physical recovery and a positive mental outlook. And I'm asking that we recognize spiritual health as a priority along with physical and mental health. And in an article published in the 2014 Journal of Psychiatry, a number of studies suggested a reduced mortality for populations who are frequently attending religious services compared to those who do not attend. So with this, I just based on studies, it's important that why would we not extend and offer visits with our faith leaders to people that are in an end-of-life situation or an illness. I myself work in ministry in a church, so I know this firsthand. We had a lot of people who were sick or ill who were not able to be visited. A member of our own legislative body, one of your colleagues' elderly father was in a nursing home and was unable to have his rites read. And so this is what really spurred this on. They were able to take him out and have his rights read before he passed. But that's really the important part, is we violated people's First Amendment rights, their right to religious freedom. And this bill just recognizes that. One thing that I do want to recognize is we don't want to be reckless. Most clergy members, my dad is a pastor, will gladly put on any suit, mask, or anything with somebody who is sick in a hospital. And that's something that we recognized with the Hospital Association. If a medical facility asks or requests you to wear PPE, they will gladly do it. And it's not just COVID, or there are other way more contagious illnesses that they will gladly put on a suit for. So with that, I'd love to walk you through the bill. So our first page 1's just an act relating to public health and safety, requiring healthcare facilities to allow clergy members to visit healthcare, to to visit healthcare facilities is specified, providing definitions and an effective date. Goes in to say what an in-person visitation with clergy members is at the bottom of page 1. The top of page 2 just declares what a clergy member is. It could be a rabbi, priest, minister, bishop, anyone acting as a lay religious counselor. We go into what a healthcare facility is, and that is a whole list of things. It could be a nursing home, a surgery center, all kinds of things. If you go to line 8, little triple I, public health emergency, what it's defined as, and then we go into just that no healthcare facility shall prohibit a resident or patient of the facility from receiving an in-person visitation with a clergy member during a health emergency. We go in to say what a patient and resident is. Patients are residents' legally authorized representative, including a family member of the patient or resident. So we go into that. And then on page 3, we talk about during a public health emergency, and it goes into the statutes of what that's classified as. And with that, the only thing that was changed on the floor of the House was they would like to make this effective immediately. And that's the end of the bill, and I stand for questions.
Questions for the representative committee? Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Angelo. So I gave you a heads up that I was going to ask this question, and I think I've given the Hospital Association the same heads up. Is this bill is only effective during a public health emergency, which is a gubernatorial proclamation? So what is the default outside of a public health emergency? What is the default for visitation by clergy outside of that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow. So normally during outside of a health emergency, and even up until this, we've kind of moved on, clergy members could visit. It wasn't an issue, and sometimes they do put on PPE and visit. Really what stopped it was the health emergency. So that would be something that I think our own hospital association could define for us a little bit better, what their views are or what their vision is for going forward. I would love to see this all the time, but my concern is if we are into another health emergency, are we going to then ban our clergy members? That would be my only concern.
Further questions? Follow up, Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess if we believe this is the appropriate way during a health emergency, would you also agree that this could be the appropriate way to handle it outside of a public health emergency? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow, absolutely.
Very good. Further questions, committee? Seeing none, I guess you're off the hook for a little bit. Okay, anybody from any departments, agencies, hospitals? Go ahead, introduce yourself, sir, and go ahead and talk to us.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Eric Boley with Wyoming Hospital Association and Leading Age Wyoming. And we're supportive of this bill. I was approached by Senator Kinski, I believe it was in October, to start discussing this matter. We had a draft bill at that time that probably wasn't the best approach to this. And so I've worked closely with Representative Angelos on this during the last couple of months to get to the draft that you have before you now. We agree. Visitation of any kind is super important in our healthcare facilities. And up until the pandemic, I'm not aware of any real restrictions that had been placed. There are rare occasions in any situation where you may or may not be able to allow visitation, but for the most part, our facilities have always welcomed these. A lot of our hospitals have clergy on staff. In our nursing homes on Sundays, on Saturdays, we provide church services and allow pastors, clergy, bishops to come in and have sacrament meetings and other things in our facilities. So we really believe that that visitation has always been an important thing. The pandemic created situations that we never experienced or expected. Obviously CMS exerted a great deal of pressure. And as you're still hearing, there are still a few requirements, especially in long-term care, where there's an outbreak where visitation may be limited. But we have no issues with this bill. And to your question, Senator Barlow, I think I've answered it. We've allowed clergy, we always allow clergy and families in as much as possible, except in certain circumstances that have to do with legal and other things, depending on the wishes of the patient. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Bollig, committee? Seeing none. You guys are all getting off really easy here today.
Thanks,
I'm
Chairman.
feeling bad. Okay, anyone else in the room wish to testify? Mr. Winnie, come on up. Go ahead, sir. Introduce yourself and present your thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. Across my 30 years career in the Navy, I served principally on submarines. We did not have chaplains. We had lay leaders and so on. But late in my career, I served as commanding officer of a large ship, crew of about 13 to 1,400. And on the crew, we had chaplains. And after a while, I noticed a difference. And I don't know that I could put my finger on the difference the chaplains made, but I could sense something different from what I'd experienced in the submarine world. I attribute it to the personal contact the chaplains had with members of the crew. They were a resource that crew members wanted or needed, or however you might phrase it. So subject to your questions, I believe this bill is very important. Thank you very much.
Questions for Mr. Winnie? No questions. Thank you very much for testifying. Anybody else in the room? Online? I believe we've got people for the other bill.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, we do have two people online if they'd like to testify. If
Yeah, if there's anybody online that wants to testify to this bill, raise your hand. No hands. Okay, with that, we will close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Okay, we got two moves at once. We'll give that one to Hutchins with a second by Barlow. Discussion or comments, committee? Seeing none. Oh, Senator Barlow.
So, Mr. Chairman, you've heard from my questions of both the bill sponsor and then the hospital association. I'm not going to make a motion here. I'll let the sponsors, co-sponsors, which is Senator Hutchins and Representative Angelos, think about it. But there's three strikes you take out of this bill and make it all the time. Take out the public health emergency reference in two places in the definition of a public health emergency. And this is applicable all the time. It's not limited to a public health emergency. I'm not sure that's, I want to make sure the wishes of the sponsor are taken care of. And so I'm not going to make that motion in committee, but I think it is literally that straightforward if we want to make this, if the right appropriate application is to make this all the time. I find that to be acceptable, but I will not bring that without the sponsor's approval. Thank you, Mr.
Very
Chairman.
good. If the sponsor and co-sponsors can get it, if it passes, we'll bring it as committee all. Further discussion, committee? Senator Bouchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I understand the sentiment there on that, but I think what's going on here is there's also a part where, and look, I'll just show you a picture here. So this is when my daughter was sick in September 2017, had a cytokine storm similar to what you saw with COVID, and you see the pastor there, and he's geared up, they had a policy basically on that family could visit without, immediate family could visit without any protection, but the pastor had to have it. And obviously Pastor Sean came in here and he didn't, we none of us were worried about the policy. And what this bill does, I think, if maybe the sponsor needs to, main sponsor needs to answer this, the way the bill is geared is to make sure that all functions properly. That in the event that there's an order that comes down, that this is going to override and allow this to function and have pastors to visit. So that's how I see the wording of the bill. Could we ask the sponsor if I'm correct, even though it's.
Any thoughts on that, Representative?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
and Senator Bouchard, yes, I think that was the main concern is, yes, that is the consensus is that clergy are always allowed to come in, but during the health emergency, they were blocked from coming in. So that was the consensus of the bill, to make sure that they're not blocked no matter what, health emergency declaration is there. So yeah, that was the concern, but maybe we could add both language in there.
Very good. Go ahead.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. So, well, I'm trying to get at. Shut it off, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a follow-up. I'm going beyond that. I think the way the bill is written now, it's all inclusive to make sure going forward that it doesn't happen again. So if we strike this, maybe it doesn't have the same teeth to stop that in the future. Does that make sense?
Representative Angelos.
Senator Barlow and Senator Bouchard, yes. Yes, I understand where you're going. I would like to definitely clarify with Hospital Association before we make those changes to make sure that they aren't going to be barred in the event of another health emergency, which we still currently are in until May.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Committee? Committee, any amendments? We need to walk through the bill? Nope. All right. We're going to, the chairman had to present a bill next door. He asked us to hold the roll open because Senator Dockstader could vote if he chose to, and the chairman will vote. Oh, he has voted. Okay, so if you'll call the roll, that'd be great. Thank you. Roll call on House Bill 127. Engrossed.
Thank you. Senator Barlow. Senator Bouchard. Senator Dockstader has voted aye. Senator Hutchings. And Chairman Baldwin.
We'll leave the vote open for Chairman Baldwin.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Representative Angelos. Well done. Have a great day.
Who would like to?
Take care of those good Senate files over there, Representative Angelos.
Who would like to present, sir?
Representative Angelos, did you have someone in particular of your Senate co-sponsors that you wanted to present? There's two of us on the committee, I believe, and then Senator Brennan or Steinmetz. Did you have a preference? Have you talked to anybody in particular? Senator Kinski is going to bring it? All right. All right, I will double check with Senator Kinski, and if he's not available, one of us will take care of it.
Thank you.
All right, the next bill for our consideration is House Bill 165, Living Organ Donor Protection. It's still in its white form. Well done, Representative O'Hearn. Welcome to Labor, Health, and Social Services, the committee. President Driscoll, did you want to say anything before we continue with the next bill? Did you have? Well, good morning. Well, welcome. I'm glad to hear. Good luck the rest of your day. Thank you, sir. All right. So Representative O'Hearn, I apologize for that short detour. Thank you for being here. If you'd go ahead and like to present House Bill 165 to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative O'Hearn, House District 59, to present House Bill 165. It's a real simple bill. What this bill does is increase the donor pool as the current transplant system doesn't meet the demand. The two closest transplant centers in the two large cities in the states south and southwest of us have a 5-year average wait time, sometimes 7 to 10 years depending on the blood and tissue type. According to our health department, there are 150 plus Wyoming residents currently waiting for a transplant. Why I bring this bill is that one of my constituents who is online is a kidney organ recipient. She's very happy to have had 23 plus years of travel, weddings, birthdays, grandkids, and sunrises and sunsets to enjoy with the freedom that her kidney transplant has given her. I'll quickly go through the bill. On page 1, line 1 is what the bill does. It prohibits discrimination against living organ donors. On line 12, it states no individual or group life insurance policy or long-term care insurance policy shall. And on page 2, Romanet I, deny or cancel coverage to a covered person solely on the basis of that person's status as a living organ donor. Romanet II, deny a covered person eligibility or continued eligibility. Romanet III, reduce or limit coverage or benefits increase the premiums, or otherwise adversely affect the coverage or cost. And in Romanet 4, preclude a covered person from donating all or part of an organ. Section 2 creates, in the definitions, living organ donor on line 12, a person who is not deceased and who has donated all or part of one or more of the person's own organs or tissue. Section 3 means the act is just the individual or group life insurance or long-term care insurance contract or policy offered, issued, renewed, or delivered or issued after this date. And then Section 4, the effective date. There's no fiscal cost to this. Creates more life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for everybody. That's the bill. It doesn't affect your insurance currently, and just they can't raise your rates. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Representative Ahern. Committee, any questions for Representative Ahern? Senator Hitchens.
This is a familiar friend. Am I correct?
I took it to the,
Representative
Mr.
Ahern.
Chairman. Yes, I introduced this to the interim committee in Casper in June or July, and you guys told me to work it better. We took out some of the other disability insurances. I've talked with all the insurance companies, and everybody's happy with this bill.
Sweet.
Thank you. For follow-up, Senator?
Yes, was this also introduced last year as well?
Mr. Chairman? I don't
Representative
believe
Ahern?
so.
You don't believe so? Great, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, further questions? Senator Bouchard.
Thank you. I'm just curious if there's any teeth here. I mean, I don't see any teeth. How are we going to make sure that they follow the law?
Representative Ahern.
Mr. Chairman. 1/4 of organ donors have had a problem getting insurance in the future. I hope this bill, like you mentioned, there's no real teeth to it, but we're hoping that this creates a better environment that the insurance companies will adhere to.
Thank you. And we do have the insurance commissioner here, so we might be able to ask that question, how it fits into the entirety of the insurance code. Any further questions for Representative Ahern? So, Mr. Chairman, we've just had the presentation on the Living Organ Donor Protection Bill, House Bill 165, by the sponsor. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask before I turn the chair over to you?
No, I actually reviewed the bill pretty close before it was even brought forth, so
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You want to take the chair
I
then?
will, sure.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
No further questions for Representative Ahern. Oh, you hit your finger by the button. I thought you were going to push. Okay. You can have a seat. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to ask a question? Come on up, Commissioner. Welcome to Labor and Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Rude, the Insurance Commissioner. I just want to state, we had worked with the good representative on this bill in the interim, and I wanted to answer Senator Bouchard's question, if I may. So, Mr. Chairman, Senator Bouchard, in and of itself, the statute shows what an insurance company should not do. So if we get a complaint, even one, while we're a small office, what we have the ability to do is talk nationally. So say this is a large insurance company, we could poll other states, for example, and see if they've had the same or similar problems. This is, I think, passed in about 30 states in this current version. And we could actually do a market conduct study. We could actually ask the insurance company to give us their data. We do a data call. We say, tell us every case where you've done this in and what has happened with that person in their when a policy came up for renewal, for example. Did the rates go up? Did they go down? And they would have to justify back to us that there were other factors there with their actuaries versus just solely on this situation.
Okay, further questions? Senator Bouchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what teeth do you guys have to actually make them do something or punish them? I mean, I want to know where the rubber meets the road. Where does that come in?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Bouchard, yes, any violation of a statute, there's provisions in the very front of the statute. There's some monetary policies which aren't necessarily that arduous, but we always hold the license over that in that company's ability to sell in the state. And we could put conditions on it, or we could actually suspend it, or we could take it from them. And that is the ultimate hammer that the insurance departments have of these entities.
Further questions? Senator Hutchins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This isn't a question, but I'd like to take a personal privilege. Working with the Commissioner Rude, you are one of the kindest, most hardworking people, divisions that I've ever worked with. And I just want to thank you for working so hard with the legislators to help us get things done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Chairman, Senator Hutchins, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay.
I have a good team. So.
Okay, anybody else with a question? See none, thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else in the audience? Oh, we got a question from Senator Barlow.
Actually, for either the commissioner or the bringer of the bill. So this is about the one who was the donor. What about the recipients? Do we have current law that would protect them? And I'm trying to, I forgot about 802, which is also donor discrimination prohibited. But what about the recipients? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Hearn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Barlow, I think your question is, do the recipients, rephrase your question, please.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could, the short title of this is Prohibiting Discrimination Against Living Organ Donors. So my question is, that's great. I understand what we're trying to do. Do we also need to extend an anti-discrimination clause toward the recipients, the people that received the organ, that they not be discriminated based on by an insurer? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow, that might be better. I know the recipient doesn't pay any of the cost. He's not paying the cost. Person that, or the recipient is paying all the cost. The donor does not have to. I will defer to the insurance.
Commissioner Lifeline, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow, I think that's one of the things they looked at in the interim, because it was overarching with other disability insurance and all parties. What we end up with in instances of a person receiving it is we have to look at that individual contract, because they are all over the place on what's covered and what's not covered. There was no set policy standard that we saw. Like I said, in some instances, certain things were covered, other instances they weren't, but there was no reference previously, certainly, about what would happen going forward with that individual's policy, if the rates would go up or if they would not go up.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Okay, you're both off the hook again. Okay, anybody else in the audience wish to discuss this? I know we got a couple online. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and let them both in. And we'll hear from Ann first.
I've admitted both people, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
betting that's John that showed up first.
Hi, I'm Ann Bina.
Yeah, let's go ahead. John is, I believe that's who you're. Go ahead and introduce yourself and unmute and testify, please.
Yeah, I'm Ann Bina. I'm a kidney
Can you hear me?
transplant
Can you hear me,
recipient.
John?
Yes, sir. I was going to defer to Ann.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear-
Oh, Anna's talking, but we can't hear her. We have subtitles that we can see here, but we can't hear anybody.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me now? No?
Okay, well, let's do this. We had to do this at another committee too. We can't hear your voice. but we
Okay, can
read
you
the
hear me now?
subtitles. We'll let John
hear
go
me
ahead and
now?
go first if you want to go ahead. Okay. Ann?
Yeah,
Ann, can you hear me? Just
Yes, I can.
Okay, let's do this. I got Ann hooked up here. Let's let Ann go ahead and testify. We're reading your subtitles, Ann, but we can't hear your voice. So go ahead
Okay.
and talk slow and enunciate well so we can read your words well. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, I'm Ann Bina. I live in Casper. I'm a National Kidney Foundation kidney advocate for the state of Wyoming. And I've had a kidney transplant back in 1999. When I had my transplant, I was only on the wait list for 14 months. Today, as Representative O'Hearn has said, you go to Denver or you go to Salt Lake City, and the wait is at least 5 years, sometimes 7 to 10. And kidney recipients or kidney disease patients cannot wait that long. There were 160 people in Wyoming last year that needed a kidney transplant, and only 27 of them actually had a transplant. That's less than 16% could have a transplant. The whole idea of the Living Donor Protection Act is to increase organ donation, kidney transplants, and to expand living donation, so there are more transplants. The list is just growing astronomically, people that need a transplant. When I was on the list, there was only 60,000 on the list nationwide. Today, it's well over 100,000. They say here in Wyoming, there's over 7,000 people suffering from chronic kidney disease and will likely need a transplant in the future. So I am such a proponent of having this bill be passed, not only to help other people that need a transplant, to expand that program here in Wyoming, but also to end any kind of barriers there are for living donors. Thank you very much, and God bless everybody.
Thank you. And we actually did get your audio at the end here, so we got to
Okay.
Thank you very much for that testimony. Anybody have questions for Ann Committee? Seeing none. I do have one quick question, and you may or may not know the answer. And the answer is, there were roughly 16% of the people that needed that transplant in Wyoming that got them. Of those other 84%, did any of those people actually not get a transplant in time that they became deceased? Or do you know any numbers on that?
Yeah, every year or last year, 9 people in Wyoming passed away waiting to have a kidney transplant. And I'm sure those numbers are just going to increase. To me, that's 9 people too many.
I agree. And thank you for that information. Okay, we will move on to John. John, you've been waiting to talk. Hopefully you have audio as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you guys hear me?
We got you. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Good morning. My name is John Hoffman. I'm the Senior Director of State Policy and Advocacy for the American Kidney Fund. On behalf of all the people we serve in Wyoming, including the Wyoming residents currently living with kidney failure, we are requesting that you support HB 165, the Living Donor Protection Act. This important bill would prohibit life and long-term care insurance companies from discriminating against people based on their status as an organ donor. Just as a background, the American Kidney Fund is the nation's leading nonprofit organization working on behalf of the 37 million Americans living with kidney disease and the millions more at risk, with a range of programs that support people wherever they are in their fight against kidney disease, from prevention through transplant. With programs that address early detection, disease management, financial assistance, clinical research, innovation, and advocacy, no kidney organization impacts more lives than AKF. While most transplanted organs are from deceased donors, patients may also receive organs from living donors, as you know. Living donation offers an alternative for individuals awaiting transplantation from a deceased donor and increases the existing organ supply. Over 6,000 living donor transplants were performed last year in the United States. Kidneys are the most common organ transplanted for living donors, followed by liver and lung. Both living and deceased donation offer hope to nearly 104,000 people waiting for an organ transplant right now, including the more than 88,000 people who are waiting for a kidney. In addition to transforming the life of the kidney patient, a transplant is also a boon to society. The cost of a transplant is lower than long-term kidney dialysis, and it gives the transplant recipient a greater ability to remain in or return to the workforce. Unfortunately, studies have shown that people who donate organs experience discrimination by insurance companies solely based on their status as an organ donor. For example, an NIH study demonstrated that a high proportion of kidney donors had difficulty changing or initiating insurance, particularly life insurance. The study concluded that these practices by insurers create unnecessary burdens and stress for those choosing to donate and could negatively impact the likelihood of live kidney donation among those considering donation. Further, extensive research has demonstrated that people who donate a kidney are likely to live just as long as similarly healthy people who have both kidneys. We believe that providing incentives and removing financial burdens for living donors can lead to an increase in organ donations. For these reasons, we're hopeful for your support on this and any other future legislation that helps improve the lives of those fighting kidney disease. I want to thank Representative O'Hearn for his leadership, and I want to thank the chair and the committee for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for John, committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much, John, for coming and talking to us today. Anyone else online? Oh, we got a question. Senator Bouchard.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question, but I do have something that, 6 years being on this committee, we've had testimony of other obstacles, with either payment or insurance or things that there were obstacles. And the two that just gave testimony would probably be very, do a big favor to everybody out there that's had a problem if they brought the list of all those things, maybe for an interim topic, because it's something that needs to be, a deep dive in everything that's an obstacle.
And probably organ donation in general is a good topic for interim. Representative O'Hearn, that was a nudge. That's available for putting online right now. So with that, committee, anyone else in the audience want to speak to us? Going once, going twice. Closing public comment. Committee.
Move the bill.
Moved by Senator Barlow. Second by Doc Stetter. Committee, tell me what you got on your mind. Senator Barlow.
Chairman, I guess I just need to know who the good representative wants us to carry the bill on the Senate floor when we pass it.
That's a good assumption. He says we're going to pass it, so that's a good sign. I believe Senator Schuler has talked about presenting it on the floor. So, okay, with no further discussion, let's take a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Barlow. Senator Bouchard. Senator Dockstader. Senator Hutchings has also voted aye, and Chairman Baldwin. We have 5 ayes, sir.
Representative, talk with Senator Schuler and make final plans for floor. It'll probably come up today. And I believe we left the other vote open. Is that correct? And was I the only missing vote? Okay, well, I'm voting aye. And what are the results?
We have 5 ayes, sir.
5 ayes, so that
And-
bill,
Senator Kinski. is
What
going to
number is that?
present.
quick. House Bill 127, also passed the Labor and Health Committee. Are you going to present that? You and Hutchins are both on it. It's Senator Kinski is going to present that.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's the end of today's Labor and Health. You got something for us, Commissioner?